Hello and welcome to the Rose Garden of Secular Energeticists Global. If this is your first video, then I'll let you know that the Rose Garden, Rose is an acronym. It stands for Representatives of Secular Energeticism. Secular Energeticists Global is the group created around this perspective that I wrote in this book, Matthew 10:10, Travels of an Awareness. Now, before you get too crazy, Matthew 10:10 is my name and my birthday. It is not religious. This is the funny part of the title. You gotta have a little bit of fun in such a serious subject matter. And Travels of an Awareness is a reminder of what we are. Now today, I'm here to talk about Chapter 5. This is the good stuff. Once you've gotten past Chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4, you get to Chapter 5, Energeticism. There's a short introduction to energeticism at the beginning. And energeticism is made up of 28 tenets that serve to answer the fundamental questions of existence. Yes, that sounds lofty. I know. But at some point in time, we have to take everything that we know and readdress those questions. Especially in light of misunderstandings where people are getting hurt by things like racism, sexism, religion, disdain of education, lack of understanding of government, and many other misunderstandings that people don't really see as misunderstandings. They see them as very real issues. Some of these issues are things that we have perpetuated over time. That's why they're misunderstandings, such as race. We're just not different races, just to put that out there for you. Anyway, energeticism. This is the perspective. It is now called secular energeticism. Of course, in the book, it is only called energeticism because that's all I needed in order to understand existence. But as soon as I wrote it and I was done and I got on social media and all of that, it became very clear that this had to be preserved in the most objective, rational, logical, reasonable way. And so I thought I would just go ahead and add secular because this is not rooted in superstition. We don't make any illogical leaps in understanding existence. If we want illogical leaps and we want grandiosity in our perspective of existence, which is what we did, then there are many religions, many metaphysical offshoots that make you feel all warm and fuzzy. Our position here is a challenging one. But at the same time, when we come to understand it, we get a lot of the same beauty that we ever wanted from any religion. But it does take time to actually understand our position and this sensation of being an awareness inside of a brain on a planet with all these other people. It's a really nice position that we find ourselves in. I mean, I'm sitting in a house here with shelter. We've got lots of entertainment. Everybody's alleviating boredom in whatever ways that they can conjure up. There's so many different things to do here on this planet. So, energeticism. Energeticism, Chapter 5, is made up of 28 tenets. And these tenets are really simple. You'll have to forgive me for burying my head in this book because I don't have them all memorized in the order that they are. I can talk about a lot of them off the cuff and probably cover all of them. But if I'm going to read them to you, then I'm going to have to look at the book and just address little things such as I just find it important in this little summary to actually read them and to give you, the public, those tenets. Later on in the book, there are places where these tenets are referenced. That's kind of why I like having the paper copy. Because when it says, okay, go to tenet, this question or this paragraph has to do with tenet 12, then you can quickly go back to tenet 12 and say, oh yeah, the nature of everything is natural. So anyway, the tenets, they're all really, really simple. Very simple statements, and they address the fundamental questions to put together our perception of our position. So, tenet 1 is we as living things in this universe are the energy of the universe aware of itself. Super profound for a lot of people, but it turns out that we're made of the same stuff that the rest of the universe is made of, so we are it interacting with itself. Simple. Almost a restatement, tenet 2 is we are energetic beings aware of themselves. So this word energy, this comes from physics. This isn't this wooey, floaty energy. Sure, you can feel a person's energy. You can feel my energy right now. I get it. But the energy we're really talking about that even supports you feeling my energy at this time is this energy, is the actual atoms and molecules that I'm made of, that my genetics are made of. It's the actual physical energy. Basically everything that is a thing in physics we refer to as energy. Everything is made of atoms and subatomic particles and their constituent parts. And therefore, that's the universe interacting with itself. And so we happen to be energetic beings in the universe. Simple. So as energetic beings, tenet 3 says we express, absorb, and process energetic patterns within us. So our thoughts, even things going through us like light, energy, electromagnetic energy, radiation, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, all the brain activity that we have going on, the chemical changes, all of this is the interaction of energy. Absolutely everything you see is energy in some form, including this. So everything's made out of the same stuff that the rest of the universe is made out of. And we express energetic patterns, as I'm doing now. We absorb energetic patterns, as you're doing now. And what else do? We process, as both of us are doing now. Or at least I was doing it. If I'm still alive, I'm still processing energetic patterns. But anyway, that's what we do. We are energetic beings, absorbing energy, processing it, expressing it in ways. The more aware we are that we're doing this, then the more we can control what we're doing and be aware of what we're doing to other people. So this is the constant interaction and interplay of energy. So we switch gears a little bit in the tenets because we have to describe other things. Those first 4 tenets kind of talk about what we are. Now, what we talk about in tenet 4 is when. So we start talking about the moment. And tenet 4 says, now is the only moment that exists. This moment is incredible. It is this moment right now, even for you. The only moment that exists is this moment. Not the one that just went by or the one that you're seeing at a much later time, but the moment you're in, this moment. So the neat thing about this moment is that when we try to measure it, we do so. We say, okay, let's just call the moment a second. Well, that moment you can divide in half. All of a sudden the moment is half a second. How do you measure the moment? So you divide that half second in half, and so on, and keep dividing, and it's infinitely divisible. The actual moment of reality that's real is infinitely small. So now happens to be the only moment that exists. The moments on both sides of now, they don't exist, just now. So we go to tenet 5, and we say the moment we call now is infinitely divisible. So I've already extrapolated on that, no need to go on. Now, here's the other fun thing. All the energy in the universe changes at the same moment. Now. Everything, anywhere, is changing position at the same exact moment. So that makes time travel not possible. You can't go backwards. Now, in space, there are things that can be done in order to kind of go forward, but it's more the perception of going forward. Yeah, you're actually going forward, but in order to do so, you have to travel faster than the speed of light. I'm not sure what path you have to take, but you really have to travel fast. It's in such a way that when you travel at that speed, or speeds above it, you come back to the Earth, and what was maybe a month of travel for you was like 5 years of time on Earth. So these are fun little things in physics that we can get to know. That information's out there. Everybody should be familiar. We're not familiar with being able to travel back in time, because in order to do that, everything in the universe would have to be at its original position. And that seems pretty far-fetched. So, do we just out of hand say, oh, there's no such thing as a wormhole or other strange phenomena that could possibly happen? Sure. But this whole endeavor is not about low probability ideas. As far as understanding our position and understanding existence, we want to approach it with things that are very high in probability to be true. So, it appears that, the whole entire universe going backward or going, in reverse motion, or that we go back to some point where everything was in a different position, not possible. Going forward, however, in such a way that you miss the changing of a lot of positions because of whatever speed you're traveling, that's understandable. And the perception that you've traveled in time is there, and probably kind of the reality. If you come back and it's 4 years later and it was a month for you, well, that seems like traveling forward. Anyway, so we go to Tenant 7, and we say all of this change that the universe is doing, we can't officially say that it had a beginning. We can identify the Big Bang, and that can be one of many bangs. There doesn't need to be just one. So, but what we see out there is the origination of kind of an explosion where everything just spanned out. And that's just the indicators that we get from everything that we can see in the universe, in our known universe. So, basically, in that everything's changing position, it has no beginning and it has no end, in that you can't have a first cause. So to assume a beginning would be a false assumption, which is something that humans have commonly done forever. Said, oh, this is the beginning, this is when everything began. We need to have that sense of a beginning. But in fact, in the universe, for there to be a change, another change has to cause it. This is one of our laws of thermodynamics. So we go with those laws of thermodynamics and apply them to the fundamental questions of existence. Easy. Anyway, number 8, the universe appears to be infinite. So we don't see any end. If there is a border, what's on the other side of the border, and it just keeps on going. So the universe appears to be infinite. Like there's a bunch of nothingness going on forever. And when we think about that, we're thinking in terms of, billions of light years. And that's amazing. Light traveling for billions of years. You got to realize our one galaxy is 80,000 light years across. It takes light 80,000 years to get from one side to the other. So anyway, the universe is a vast place. And that feeling of being in this vast, infinite space is quite different than the feeling of just being on my street, or in my city, or in my country, or even on this one planet. So we get a different feeling when we answer the questions in these ways. Anyway, the total amount of energy that exists is finite, because you can't get something from nothing. In a closed system, and this is another law of thermodynamics, in a closed system, the amount of energy stays constant, and it only changes form. So we make the whole entire universe that closed system, so the total amount of energy that has ever existed has stayed at the exact same quantity, no matter what universe you go to. The total amount of energy should be constant. given our laws of thermodynamics and saying that you can't get something from nothing and you can't make something into nothing. So interesting stuff. So that lets us know that all this energy has really just been changing form, changing position forever. And we happen to be awarenesses amongst that energy. Amazing. I'm sorry, it's amazing. So now let's keep on going. Because the total amount of energy in a closed system is finite, in theory, all changes within a known system are calculable and thus predictable. We don't have the technology to predict all the changes in the universe. But we are the universe predicting itself. So the changes in a smaller system, there are certain things we can predict. And we're the universe aware of itself, predicting itself. And that also points kind of to a deterministic situation that we find ourselves in. It's also been determined that we have will at all to do anything. So that's pretty cool. I don't like people feeling like, they have no free will. The word free will is kind of a misnomer. It's just will. It's not free. It is governed by circumstance. My will is governed by the circumstances that surrounds me. There's no way my will can ever be free of the circumstances that it finds itself in. Free to choose amongst things? Sure. There we start to feel like there's an actual illusion of freedom. And it is kind of an illusion of freedom. All right, now we're going to switch gears again, and we're going to talk about nature. So the 11th tenet is nature is everything that exists. And so basically everything that does exist is nature. Styrofoam's nature. Humans are natural beings. Anything we produce, reorganize, energy on the planet, out in space, whatever, all of these processes are natural. It's natural that we mine the earth and get a bunch of stuff out and create all the stuff that you see surrounding you, surrounding me. This couch, this book, floors, houses, whatever, all of it. That we create all of this stuff is natural. We're natural beings, therefore everything we do is natural. There's no such thing as unnatural. Can't find it. Now, let's just throw the God thing out there. If there were a God, it would exist naturally. It would also be natural to exist. So, but back to the universe. Everything in nature that exists is natural. Now, the nature of everything is also natural. And I kind of just described that already, so I'm not gonna, keep on talking about the same exact thing. But yes, everything we do, totally natural. It's not even correct to say that what we do is unnatural. We can be more specific and say what we do is against some other part of nature. And that we're destroying another part of nature. It's not unnatural that we destroy nature. That's exactly what organisms do all over the place. And destroy is sometimes a tough word, but rearrange might be a better one. Anyway, so let's switch gears again as we get into Tenet 13. Tenet 13 is this life is it. In short, as far as we know, we don't have ghosts running around us all the time saying, hey, can't wait to see you. That would be nice. So as far as we know, and all the souls, all the billions of lives of all species, they're not floating around us all the time to reassure us that, hey, you get to go on and do something else. It is a big, big hope, and you'll find that the brain is the main culprit of perpetuating that hope, which is okay. I get it. It's scary to die. But as far as we know, to 99% probability of being congruent with reality, this life is the one we get to experience. And in thinking that way, we should give it the most value we possibly can and do the most with it. Now, given Tenet 13, we move to Tenet 14, and that says death is it. Again, that should lead a person to put the most value into this life. Now, we created gods and so forth so that we would, and heavens, and hells, so that we would adhere to being moral, ethical people and adhere to rules that were set by us. And it's because we do that because we're scared of death. It's a scary thing. It's not an easy thing to face, but it does belong in your understanding of existence. Everyone has some ideas on it. Again, we don't have a bunch of people running to us to say, hey, we can't wait to see you. So we tend to imagine that this is not it. But we have to say, as far as we know, this is it. We don't see any big reason to go on and do anything else. So enjoy this existence and do the most you can. Because, Tenet 15, human existence is. Right now, we exist. You and me, well, you definitely exist right now. At the time you're watching this, I hope I exist, but this could be around for much longer than I am. So, human existence is. We exist, we're here, we can relish in our existence, we can rejoice in it. It's better to live than to, constantly be thinking about dying. But that's what we're here to do. Survive, reproduce, alleviate boredom, help everybody else do the same. And within that alleviation of boredom, we actualize our potential. All right. Tenet 16. Humans are, and always have been, free to do what they will. So that is a twist on free will. We are free to do what we will. We're not free, because we're governed by circumstance. Some people in the philosophy world would refer to that as determinism, but it really just means you have a ridiculous number of choices within you to choose from, and it's been determined that you even have those choices, that you're working with the information that you have in your head. You can't work with anything else that you don't have here. So that's what's so much fun about acquiring new knowledge and learning, because then you put more here and then you can do other things and be an awesome, interesting human being or something. All right, now 17. Here's a fun one. This is a tough one for some people because sometimes it's hard to see through all the problems. And Tenet 17 is human existence moves toward unity. Now, we used to be in a bunch of little separate tribes all over the planet. As those tribes got to know each other, we moved toward unity. Even now, there's a lot of different languages, a lot of different cultures, but with the technology we have, we know that all those places exist and that those people exist. So we move closer to being unified as a people on a planet. Now, of course, we're in a stage of that, and we're definitely plenty divided on so many different fronts. This whole perspective bonds us because all of this is the same for every single one of us. So, we're always moving toward unity. To go a little bit further, Tenet 18 says humans have the ability. Note, humans have the ability to achieve peace and harmony on Earth. We'll go ahead and say, and elsewhere, whatever. We can't be here forever. Hopefully we get somewhere else. That's one of the big hopes of the human race, because the planet's not going to be viable forever. But a lot of people object to those last two because, unity seems like a tough thing for us to get to, and that we have the ability to achieve peace and harmony. That we have the ability to achieve peace and harmony is 100% true. We have the ability. Whether we'll do it or not is a different question. So I definitely found that if we were going to continue trying to find peace and harmony, maybe a better way to do it would be through understanding instead of so much misunderstanding. And since we have the information to move in that direction, let's do it. And that's what energeticism is. It is a perspective to help us move in that direction of achieving peace and harmony and understanding unity. I think we can do this through understanding, but we definitely can't do it through misunderstanding. Anyway, Tenet 19. Every energetic occurrence and all that leads to it is knowable. So everything that happens is caught up in a cause and effect universe. It takes one change to create another. And therefore, everything that does happen has a causal chain of events that led up to it. So, even though we might not be able to know all of that, we can rest assured that anything that does happen was led to happen through a causal chain of events, because that's how the universe works. We haven't seen it work in any other way. So you'll notice again, there are some laws of thermodynamics that we're incorporating in our understanding of existence. So let's keep on going. And again, in chapter 5, let me just jump real quick. These 2 pages, if I could give all of these 2 pages to the whole entire world and have them really work to understand them, we would be so much better off. Anyway, I also want to talk about the format of chapter 5, which I know I kind of skipped over before I started reading all of these. But let's say for each tenant, there are a couple of pages about that tenant. Only a couple, only a few. So energeticism is about that long. There's a couple more. There you go. So that's energeticism, and we're still in the middle of the tenants. I'm going to get through the rest of them. But yeah, each tenant has a couple of pages about it so that you can understand a little bit more about what's being said. All right, so let's say the next tenant is 20. Humans possess the ability to learn vast amounts of information. So a lot of people think they don't, that they can't. And the fact of the matter is that human beings can learn huge amounts of information. They've memorized books, they've memorized plays, and they've memorized Shakespeare, they've memorized their religion, every word in every book. The brain has the ability to learn vast amounts of information and to do a vast amount of processing. I felt that it was important that people understood their brain's ability, what it can take in, how much information it can take in, how much it can recite. So now let's just quickly cruise to Tenant 21. Life is equal in worth amongst all who possess it. Humans are not equal. That might sound weird. So let's break it down a little bit. So humans are equal in, life is equal in worth amongst all who possess it. To quickly show you that equality, we can wipe out the entire planet with a meteor and say, okay, well, what value is that? We usually want to inherently put a high value on life. But being stuck out here on a planet out in the middle of nowhere without an apparent purpose, all life is equal in worth in that it even exists. So one life is really not truly more valuable than another, but every single life gets this one chance that we know of to exist, to survive, to reproduce, to alleviate its own boredom. So we try to respect life based on that. I know it's a convoluted way to do it, to say that it's equal in worth and that worth is basically almost nil. But life is equal in worth amongst all who possess it. Humans are not equal. The reason why humans are not equal is because we have different bits of information. So we're not equal when it comes to the configurations in our head. We have a lot of differences. That's what I mean by humans are not equal. So my information, for example, on pool, billiards, is not equal to the next person who, doesn't know very much about pool. Try to quickly run through the rest of these. We had to say that life feeds on life and non-life because that's real. Humanity may or may not take, in Tenant 23, humanity may or may not choose to take responsibility for itself. That's completely up to us. Tenant 24, we are alone here on Earth together until we are not here or alone. So, here we are on a planet, together. These are just straight realities of our position, just to remind you. Now here's a kind of convoluted one, at least since everything's energy, love is manifested from energetic forces. We are those forces, everything in our brain. Last three, and I know this is a bit of a long one, this existence, yes, it is a coincidence. It's not like, things just randomly slapped together and said, boom, here we are, but they almost kind of did. Life happens in the universe, a lot. So we can pretty much imagine that there's life all over the universe, and there's a lot we can talk about regarding that, but that's basically what happens in space, life. Tenant 27, we seek to understand our position here in the universe. That's what we've been doing this whole entire time, together, trying to understand our position in the universe. And lastly, one could almost predict this, but energy is mass times the speed of light squared. And that is Chapter 5, Energeticism. Thanks. I hope you like the perspective.